Hey YouTube, how's it going? Well, here we are, as promised, Ask TFC episode 36, and there's been a bunch of things, a bunch of questions submitted, and so let's go ahead and get right to it here. Gareth asks, I know you've had to deal with a lot of hardships over the years. Even now you're trying to get through a winter without heating, which is terrible. So my question is, when things are hard and everything seems to be working against one, how does one find the will to keep on trying over and over anyhow? Obviously, there's no one right answer. Well, honestly, from my point of view, I think there is one right answer. Because how does one find the will to keep on trying over and over? Because the alternative to not keep on trying is unacceptable. The alternative to continuing is to not continuing, and that is unacceptable in the extreme. I keep going because I don't want to stop. You know, stopping is unacceptable and permanent, and no. It's actually really, it's very easy, and for me it is one right answer. I keep going because to not keep going is unacceptable. It's really that easy. Question 2. Hope Starter, and I hope that's correctly pronounced because it's really hard to tell when you've got numbers in your name. That always throws me off. Anyway, the question is, what are your thoughts on the sequel of the movie Avengers: Age of Ultron? Well, I saw the trailer and it looks good. It looks interesting. Beyond that, I haven't got a clue. When I get a chance to see the movie, probably in a year or more, I'll let you know. That's the way that is. I don't get to see movies until long after they come out, unless I find a place online to watch it. And those are generally not very good quality because they're, somebody sitting in the theater with a cell phone recording it, and that always comes out bad. Yeah. So I really don't have any thoughts about the movie yet because I haven't seen it. Mr. Brian asks, why did you move to Arkansas? Well, let's see, that was about 96, 97, around there. My wife had family down here, and that was around the time when her father died, and we ended up moving down here for her to be closer to family and such like and whatnot. He asks, how long have you lived in your current house? Well, that one's easy. We signed the lease and moved into we signed the lease on this place on December 4th, 2001. And within a week or so later was completely moved in. And here it is 2014 and I'm still here. Yeah. I don't like to move. And besides, this is a really, really good landlord. The best landlord I've ever had. In all those years, they've never, ever raised rent. I'm paying the same rent, the same amount of rent now as I was in 2001. That is awesome. Bookworm 1998 says, who is your favorite author and why? Oh, wow, that's a hard one. No, seriously, it really is. Because there's a number of authors that I really enjoy. It depends on what kind of thing I want to be reading. If I want to read horror, I might get into Stephen King and several others whose names don't come to mind right now, but that I have read lots of their stuff. Let's see. For science fiction, people like Robert Heinlein, Asimov, James Blish, again, there's a lot more, but I don't necessarily remember the names right now. You know, it's not that I don't know who they are. I do. It's just that I'm terrible with names. If I don't use a name fairly often, it's liable to escape me. And, well, let's see. Thing I'm reading right now. I am reading the second 3-volume set in a series by Stephen R. Donaldson. The first set would be the First Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever, and I'm currently reading the Second Chronicles, the first book of the second volume, or the second set, the Second Chronicles. And I mean, I've got the First and Second Chronicles, each one in a three-book thing, a single volume with 3 books in it. There, I'll get it spoken once in a while, one way or another. And it's really good, very engrossing. He has a way of describing things and a way of what's going on in that story that is just really awesome. And what kind of piques my interest is that I have heard mention of the fact that there is a third Chronicles. And I would love to get my hands on that, because I didn't know it existed until probably a few months ago. Ain't that a mess? Alright, Nick Killick, I think that's how you pronounce that. What's your favorite movie? Sorry, I know it's a cliche, but I'm interested. Well, that's okay. Sometimes cliche questions are good. Let's see. My favorite movie, I don't actually have an all-time single individual favorite movie. There again, it kind of depends on the sort of thing, the sort of style of thing or genre or whatever that I'm interested in at the moment. For science fiction, for years and years and years, my all-time ever favorite movie was 2001: Space Odyssey, because it was just absolutely epic. I saw that movie in the theater when it came out. I was a kid, my father took me to the movie, it was awesome. I was totally blown away by it. And it has always remained a favorite ever since. Part of the reason it remains a favorite is because I kind of get the movie and most people don't. Most people look at that movie and go, ugh, boring. Well, okay, maybe it is boring to most people, but I thought it was absolutely epic as all get out. The visuals were epic, the space scenes and the way he handled space physics and whatnot, it was all dead on real. Kubrick did an awesome, amazing job with that movie. Another favorite movie, Dune. And I'm not talking about the more recent one. I'm talking about the one that was, I think it was either late 80s or early 90s, that had Patrick Stewart and Sting in it. That version. And about a year ago, I think it was, I saw a fan edit of that movie that was absolutely top-notch. It was great. It's an epic story. It's also a fantastic series of books, by the way. Dune, last I knew, it encompassed about either 9 or 12 novels, and it covered a span of about 30,000 years, starting from 20,000 years in the 10,000 years in the future, excuse me, and going to about 50,000, so it'd be about 40,000 year span. Absolutely epic, mind-boggling story. Very deep, very involved, plans and plots within plans and plots and so on. And just when you start to think you figured something out, he hits you with something else. And so that's Dune, the novel by Frank Herbert. I don't remember who did the movie, but it was awesome. And the version of the movie that, in my opinion, is better is the one with Patrick Stewart and Sting. So if you get a chance to see it, do so. It's really epic. There's a lot more movies, but those are the two that I think come up there in the highest rank. Bobcat Finder, the Nether King, asks, what is the eye all about? It's about looking at people. uh, the green hairy eyeball was invented in the late 1970s as I and a friend of mine were very busy being strange in high school. I can't honestly remember a whole lot more than that. Then 2 or 3 years ago, I think it was, I got a hold of a public domain Blender model of a human eyeball, and I just had to mess with it. And I looked through the Blender file, and I found the part that made the eye look like a human eye, and I did some I loaded that graphic into an editor, into the GIMP, I think it was, and I changed some color values. Specifically, I remapped all the reds to the same shades of green, and then saved it back and re-imported that into the Blender file. And then I used a Blender tool that I have not heard of before and don't remember what it is, have only used that one time, to grow hair on the eyeball. And I've got the file. I found it recently again and decided to mess with it some, and I've added it to the intros of several video series, and it's probably going to be there for a while. And I just, it's fun. It's a fun thing. John Hamilton asks, hello TFC, would you consider playing Legend of Grimlock? It's a modern 2012 old school grid-based dungeon crawling RPG. I would be more than happy to gift you the game. Well, there is one, you know, I looked it up and it looks interesting, but there is one thing. I've already got so much stuff going now, it's really hard to keep caught up with it all. HermitCraft Mod Sauce, HermitCraft Vanilla, my single player main world, and that's just the Minecraft. Then there's Kerbal Space Program, World of Warcraft, Skyrim, and I'm sure I'm forgetting something right now, but there's so much I'm doing right now, it's really hard to keep caught up with it. You know, there's other things that I think would be interesting. I've seen a Scott Manley video or two about Elite Dangerous, and that looks interesting. And Creativerse, which I've seen recently, I'm really tempted. If I could somehow squeeze out 20 bucks, I'd find some way to make an episode of that once in a while, because it looks interesting. Interesting take on Minecraft type style game. But you know, it's like I said, there's just so many things I'm doing right now. There isn't enough hours in the day, there isn't enough computer power, and there isn't enough internet bandwidth to handle it all. Not out here in the butt end of Arkansas. Ugh. So maybe some point I might want to get into something like that, or some of these other things. Right now I just can't see it. Just simply on account of time. Dunce Commander asks, what's the craziest coincidence that's ever occurred to you in your life? Oh, well, coincidences are those things that happen all the time to everybody. Mine are generally speaking no crazier than anyone else's. However, I can think of one occasion that was particularly interesting or odd. I was calling somebody on the phone, and this was a few years ago. This was back in the day when you actually had to physically dial a landline phone. Cell phones were not really that big of a thing yet. I mean, they were out there, but they were more expensive toys for rich people than anything else. So I was calling somebody. I was dialing their phone number. And before I finished dialing their phone number, I started to hear dialing noises in my ear. Touchtone sounds coming through the headset. It turns out that they were dialing me at exactly the same moment that I was dialing them. Weird. How that kind of a thing can actually result in a connection like that is entirely beyond me. As I understand it, it shouldn't be possible. But I don't know the guts of the phone company. I don't think I want to know the guts of the phone company. That sounds nasty. Ew. But there you go. That's about the strangest coincidence ever. And this video's getting long, but okay. Super Mastodon asks, greetings TFC. I was just wondering what was your favorite recipe you have cooked and did you make a video about it? Thanks and keep it up. Well, let's see. Favorite recipe. That's another one that really, that's a really hard one. Favorite anything is really hard for me because it's almost, in my mind, it's almost always contextual. You know, in what context is the favorite you're talking about? You know, compared to what, or among what kind of food, or what kind of movie, or what kind of book, you know, all of that stuff. The one that I can think of, the first one that comes to mind right now, is a turkey tetrazzini recipe that I haven't made in several years. It's very, very good. And it's also loaded with carbs and sugars and so on and so forth. And it's not especially good for you, but it is oh so good. And I haven't made it in years because, well, because of that, and because of some time back, I bumped the table, my crock pot fell off the table, and the lid shattered into 1,000 million pieces. Yeah, that was really special. What surprised me is that the stoneware crock survived. Weird. I have not, no, I never made a video of that recipe. Maybe I ought to make it again sometime and do a video of it, if only just to have that as a good excuse to make it again. Yeah. Maybe not the most wonderful idea, but hey, I'm full of wonderful ideas these days. Anyway, this video has already grown into a small novel or something larger than I expected it to be. So I'm going to say that if you're still watching, hey, wow, cool. And especially if you did it without skipping. Yeah. And anyway, I'm going to try to do the Ask TFC thing again sometime soonish. In another week or two, I will put up another call for questions video. It will be the call for questions number 37 for the episode 37. And we'll just keep trying to do this again. And so, hey, thanks for watching. Take it easy. I'm out of here.